Happy What We Watch Wednesday. We back at it again. Ugh, So, welcome, welcome. We're back. Let me tweet it out. Tweet it out, have people join. We are talking about the Oscars very quickly, and then we're going to get right into Severance because we're having a time. Let me share. And make sure that my lovely co-host can join. Hi, Helen. Welcome. I promise you. Can y'all see my?
Yes.
Oh, hey, girl.
Hey.
Can y'all see my cup? Can you see like my stomach in this? You can't,
No,
right?
not your stomach.
Okay, good. This makes this look so much more nefarious.
Right, like what's in the cup?
Water. This is literally just water. So we're gonna be talking about the Oscars today. The Best Picture noms are what the girls are going to be talking about. I'm very excited because 2024, what we watched named 2024 the year of television, very specifically. We were very intentional about that. And the reason why is because, you know, TV changed our lives last year, and a lot of stuff got announced last year that we're experiencing this year. But I mean, we had Presumed Innocent, Lioness, Game of Thrones season 2, and luckily Severance was announced and we're deep in it. But I want to welcome everyone. Please, we are on YouTube. Subscribe and share. We are the only film and TV community that talks about film and television the way that we do. We are the best. We've been doing this for 4+ years and we won't stop. So thank you for being here. This is what we watch. Tap in for the Oscars chat. We're going to keep this chat very short and sweet if we can, Teach. But can you give everyone that's tapping in right now and tapping in later on YouTube, what are the best picture noms that we're looking at? And what kind of spread do we have?
So the best picture noms are uh, Amelia Perez, Honora, A Complete Unknown, The Brutalist, Wicked, Conclave, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Dune Part 2. So those are our Oscar noms for Best
For best
Picture.
picture.
What do you think? It's been a good year in movies outside of these Oscar noms as we go forward to that part of the conversation?
And please, those of you welcome. Teach can also let you up. This is not my favorite year, but it's been a good year. Usually, by the time Oscars have come around, I've watched every single Best Picture noms. Sans maybe like one or two. This time, I'm only like 60% of the way through the Best Picture noms. That's twofold. That's me traveling quite a bit in 2024, getting things going for what we watch and some leisure. And then, just kind of reading about what we're showing in the Oscars and what matters most. And I was very concerned with the representation this year, but we got The Substance, we got Dune Part 2. But some stuff is feels like we haven't made much progress, or we've made progress in a different direction. TJ, do you want to talk a little bit about like what's missing before we get into like what we did correctly? What would we have liked to seen in Best Picture?
I do think that the Best Picture nominees, for the most part, capture what I think the movies that should be there. But I will never ever shut up or be quiet about Challengers not being nominated, especially because I know Challengers is better than at least one of the Best Picture nominees. I have not seen them all yet. I've seen 6 of them, but at least one of them. I know Challengers is a much, much, much better movie and a better achievement and a bigger achievement. But part of for people who are not very into the Oscars, unfortunately, we're Monique and I are kind of obsessed with them. But these campaigns, these nominations happen through award season, which is basically everybody's given their awards, and what's being awarded by the other bodies is instructive about what's going to happen at the Oscars, because all the Oscar voters are either voting for some of those other awards or at least paying attention to the momentum around these campaigns and around these films. And so, unfortunately, challengers probably came out too early in the year and didn't really have any momentum when it became Oscar season, when it became time for the nominations. They're not running all year long, but when you get to that, October, November, December time range, that's when they put the Oscar films in the theaters finally. Some of the Oscar movies aren't even out yet, but that's generally when it starts and when the campaigns start and where the narratives start to shape. And uh, that the Challengers wasn't one of those movies, but I have the odds in front of me, and so the front runners right now are the Brutalists is the current front runner, and these are based on Vegas odds, which are usually pretty accurate about where things are leaning towards.
except for
Um,
the Texas National.
except, well, we were not going to talk about that,
Flag.
but the Brutalists is the favorite. Amelia Perez is the second favorite, and Honora, which had been the favorite at some point, maybe in the last month or so, is now the third favorite to win Best Picture.
So Emilia Perez, lead actress Zoe Saldana, she's had a heck of a couple of years. It's really exciting to see her on screen at all
Had a
times.
heck of a decade.
Very, very true. Definitely heck of a decade, but really kind of like showing out in television with Lioness on Paramount Plus has been really, really intense and really, really exciting. I think it's interesting. I read an article in Variety, I believe it was either Variety or Vulture, forgive me. And it was talking about kind of bridging across where you're talking about with challengers across the entire kind of idea of what the Oscars want to see in Best Picture noms. And there's definitely been a lot of progress, and progress comes from a Latina woman, right? That's a screenwriter and producer herself. And so there has been very, very slow progress. But the stories that are making it to Best Picture noms are not often written by women. They're not often directed by women, and so we've got some progress there. But Variety or Vulture brought up a very good point about the Oscars kind of, I would say like rejecting in a way the sexuality. And I want to tie that into a conversation we had at What We Watch, which is kind of, intimacy and sex on screen and what that means. And Challengers is quite frankly a very horny movie. The substance was very gory and horror. So we made progress in that. I'm also very much a horror girly. But, Baby Girl was very horny. Nosferatu was very, very horny and beautifully directed and told. It's not giving Oscar because it was too sexy and it was also too gory, but it's just kind of obvious. I think Tej, you said earlier that we're both really into the Oscars, and I just want to be clear from an institutional standpoint. The Oscars miss a lot, and it's very, very much been 100 years of this. And what we watch is just kind of permeating and injecting itself into these conversations to really give more of the independent artists a chance. And so we're seeing some progress, so that's good. But the movies like The Brutalist remind me of the Belfast picture nomination, Best Picture nom. The not Dune, a Complete Unknown. We're always going to have some sort of biography, biopic kind of situation. Those are always going to do pretty well at the Oscars. And Amelia Perez was like the shocking one, not the shocking one in a sense of like we didn't expect it, but this is a story about a trans woman, I believe, led by Zoe Saldana, who's our box office hit. What We Watch has also shared that with you. And so there's a lot of stuff. I don't know much about the Vegas odds, Tej, but what do you want to see win? Because if I'm listening to that, I'm happy with an Honora win. That is the most sexual, intimate, grief, and bridging comedy as well into it. Like that was a really, really fun, exciting movie. Honora is like this year's Tar for me, where we got an independent artist, we've got a very unique, situation with this woman at the helm who's like, is she a good person? Is she not? How do we sympathize with her? And then, she's a sex worker, which is very, very cool to have a sex worker, best picture nom, right? Like I think it's fun, it's exciting. She's an escort, she's a hooker. That's a reference from the film. Tej, what do you think? What is it giving
I
for?
I would be fine with an Honora win. I haven't seen The Brutalist yet, so I can't comment from that perspective. And it's the current
Yeah.
favorite. It's 3.5 hours. I can't wait to check it out. But I would be fine with an Honora win. I also would be fine if Wicked won, and it looks less and less likely that that's going to happen. But I think when I walked out of Wicked, I was like, man, they could do it. And I expected Wicked to be bad, even though I love Wicked. I expected the film to be bad, and I walked out of the theater and I was like, they're going to be nominated for sure, but they could actually win. Now it looks like that's not going to happen, but I wouldn't be mad if Wicked won.
Well,
I think Wicked is great.
Wicked has a series of nominations in other
It
categories.
does not as many as Amelia Perez, which is the second most nominated movie of
Ever.
all time. It's tied
Yeah.
with a couple other films, but they got 13 Oscar nominations, which is very interesting to me for maybe not the right reasons.
That's not this chat yet. But yeah, I'm good with the Wicked win as well. Queer, political, black women, very much that. If you didn't see that, that's because you don't see black women or queer people or politics at all in general, because that movie is very much that. But packaged in a really beautiful, digestible way for everyone from all walks of life. So really cool that that made it. My favorite year, no matter what, is going to be Paris. About the Oscar Best Picture noms before we go into Severance. I just want to say Parasite by my favorite guy, Bong Joon-ho, is coming back out and re-releasing in theaters and IMAX. If you are a part of what we watch, you are a fan of Parasite by transitive property, by proxy, because what we watch exists because of Parasite. Quite literally, you can never divorce the two ever in life. I am a screenwriter and a producer and a filmmaker because of Parasite, because of that movie. And so it's a full circle moment for me to go back and watch that film. And it's just really good energy for what we watch. Helen, how do you feel about the Oscar Best Picture noms, or have you really been a part of it?
I admittedly have not. I've seen 2, 3 of these,
Oh,
and
good.
I mean, I usually see more movies, but this year has just, last year was crazy. So,
Sure was crazy.
but
Same.
obviously, I saw Wicked twice.
Period.
Um, Conclave, which I thought was really good. I thought it was
Conclave was
beautiful.
fantastic. Yeah.
And then what is the other one that I saw? Mercy. Um, Maybe I haven't seen.
You have to watch the
Oh, I
second
watched Dune. I watched Dune, but like
part too. Good.
I watched Dune. I ain't gonna lie, I fell asleep, but it wasn't Dune's fault. It wasn't Dune's fault, okay? But
Maybe it was.
but
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Conclave is also, there's a thread between Emilia Perez and Conclave without telling too much, right? So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. David, do you have any comments on the Oscar Best Picture noms and what we've got going on this year?
Other than I'm not particularly interested or so
Yeah,
far fond of many
yeah.
of them, then that's
No,
that would be.
we can be honest. You know it. You know that. I mean, essentially, yeah. It's not my favorite year. Not my favorite year.
Yeah, no, no. It was a tough year in general, I think, for me. A lot of the movies that I think have been popular with everyone else that I came into very excited about. I really wish I would have been more on them, but I mean, anything from Dune to Challengers to Nora, just all of them were,
Nosferatu.
yeah, Nosferatu,
We talked about
Wicked,
that. Mm.
just all have been to some extent or another. They're not all like terrible or anything like that, but they just all have various degrees of disappointment with me.
Mm.
Only one, and the ones I really enjoyed haven't really ever weren't really. I think you have. I haven't seen Hard Truths yet, but the Nickel Boys and things like that really never made it into true contention, and those were some of the ones that I actually enjoyed on a far deeper level than some of the ones that we've seen become main runners. Which I mean,
Nickel
it's
Boys was nominated for Best Picture.
exactly, yeah. No, I mean, just the overall and kind of more. That's more
Yeah,
of a
just like
full
the
sense than
yeah,
I thought they were. Exactly, all
right.
down the board than I thought they would. But yeah, it's just I would really. like to see a more daring Oscars. I would have. I still. I know it's not realistic, but I'm not really going to be there until they start accepting horror
Exactly.
in a more embraceful way, and until they start, stop leaving out people like Marianne Jean Baptiste, and a few years ago, Delroy Lindo for The Five Bloods. Just egregious, disgusting to me. Just almost like, what are you doing? Type of leave out. So yeah, and I'm not that
Talk about it.
into it.
Talk about it. Talk about it. Be about it. Talk about it. Absolutely. So let's go right into Severance. I love talking about Severance. Tej, how did you feel about this second episode? Tej knows that I wanted to go with the Audis for episode 2, season 2. So we got that for this episode. How did you feel about this episode?
I really enjoyed it. I liked the Audi perspective, and we got to see like more of the world. And by world, I mean like the literal building where Lumen is. Like we got to see those other hallways that are not on the severed floor. And that was really fulfilling to me. And then just seeing Milchick operate in the world with the Audis, and the difference between the way he treats the Audis versus the way that he treats the Innies is just fascinating. Seeing them be fired, seeing Mark's coworkers be fired, and then seeing them rehired. That stuff just really worked for me. And obviously the scene with him and Cobell, what's her name? Cobell, or what's her inside name?
Miss Selvig, Miss Kabelvig.
Self Kobelvig, yeah, Miss Kobelvig. It was fascinating to see the interactions, and she brought up the pineapples, which is like, wait, how did she know it involved a pineapple? It's just a lot of questions that remain to be answered. But I thought it was a pretty solid episode. I enjoyed being with the Innies more, if I had to pick one, but I enjoyed this episode as well.
The Indies have a wonder about them that like kind of just gets thrown onto us as the audience. So I get that. I like being with the Audis because they're the decision makers, and I'm like, man, they have no idea that the other version of themselves is like playing in their face and or depressed and losing their minds. What I think is really cool and what we're going to continue to see about this season is like them leaning into the jokes about this entire show is just a bunch of hallways. I think the directors and the producers are having a really good time with this season. I think it's really time for them to shine. They've got us locked in. The marketing worked, all the advertising. We're watching the show. Ben Stiller's into it. He's tweeting amongst us. They've got the New York, this in Central, whatever little pop up that they had. So, but I think the directors and the producers are really shining in season 2. I mean, because like you said, when we got to see the larger world, which is just the building of Lumen, and we got to see Helena walking through the hallways, again, like she was just walking through a hallway, but wasn't that just some of the coolest shots we've seen? Tej, like that was just so cool to watch.
Yeah, I thought that was really great.
It was just fantastic. And so I think that's what we're gonna get. I think people that really appreciate a good shot. I mean, the season opened up with a really great shot of Adam Scott's character Mark S running through the hallways with really cool angles and fun, exciting, disorienting shots. So that was really really fun. I think we need to go straight into it because they tried it. They tried it with trying to tell me that Helena is Helly R, and it's Cat. Who in this room believes that that's really her? There's no way. It's not Helly. It's still Helena. Tej, what did you think about that? Because they tried it.
Well, so there are a couple things that I noticed, and we talked about this because we watched the episode together. So they showed Helly last, and the way that they filmed the sequence, that sequence, by the way, that sequence where you see them going to the lockers, Dylan goes to the locker, then I keep wanting to call him Bert, Irv goes to the locker, and then Helly goes to the locker, is completely synced up with the way they shot the first scene of them reintegrating. And if you there's a video on the timeline that if they're synced up, and you see that they're in real time,
Yep.
and the way that they filmed it, it's like rote, so that you feel the same beats and hit the same notes with every entrance, except for when
Except
she
for
gets,
Helly's.
except for Helly's, when she gets on the elevator, you don't hear the beep that you hear in the other two people's. And there could also be a way in which, because she is the boss ass bitch in the company, she literally took her severance chip out. I think that's less interesting. I think it's probably easier for them to just have disabled whatever technology flips you over to your any, and so that's
For
why
the
we didn't hear
elevator.
that beep. But I thought it was a. I said this after the first episode. it's so obvious that it's not her that they're not. This is not going to be something that we find out in the season finale. Oh my god, it wasn't her the whole time. I think they made it so obvious to where that part's about to resolve itself like right now, but they left it hanging for another episode, which I think is fine. But when we get back to the Ennies, I think they will finally reveal that it is not her in the next episode once we're back with the Ennies.
They tried to throw us off her scent, quite frankly. And those of you who don't be afraid, come on up and chat with us. This is what
I
we
agree
watch.
though,
Happy to
because she
watch it. Go ahead,
lied.
Helen. Go ahead.
I agree though, because she straight up lied about what she saw in the outside world. And I mean, I get like why Helly might lie about it, but I don't think that she would. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Helly
definitely
wouldn't
not
lie
her.
about
Helly
it.
wouldn't lie about it. So I think that's, you know, the I'm talking about the like blatant lie that she did. What did she say? I just saw like a boring apartment. Girl, what?
You lie. All
Girl,
I'm saying.
what? Okay.
Now, the only thing, like, before we really got into it, that first episode, my thing was like, Helly R, and the R stands for rebel. There might be a touch of shame in the Helly R, and the R stands for rebel, for her to be, you know, the daughter of Kier, Egan, whatever. So that's what I inserted into the conversation to intellectualize why she was lying and understand why people lie. I was like, oh, imagine you with your crew and y'all trying to take down a thing, and then you go out and tell them, oh yeah, this is my dad. We're taking down my dad. They're not gonna trust you no more. So, did anyone really think about that? JK, David, I don't know if you're watching the show. TJ, what do you think? Like, that's the only thing that I was willing to give her.
I don't buy it.
Go ahead.
I don't buy it. She's a
No,
bad
you don't buy
if she's a bad liar, if that's the case. Like
it.
you
Okay.
could have done
Okay.
better
Fair
than that.
enough.
I don't
JK,
buy it.
JK, what do you think?
I don't buy it either. I feel like if it was still Helly R, she would have told Mark and just
Privately.
tried to give him all the information that she could pick up.
Right. Right. I agree. I agree. Irv also lied, but we understand why Irv lied.
Yeah, they playing Irv hard to the left though too, with that whole family room shit. Like,
No,
okay.
you talking about Dylan. Or you talking
Oh,
about Irv?
Dylan, no, you're right.
Yeah, Dylan.
Irv lied, but I mean,
Do we understand why Irv lied?
I
TJ,
He
do we
lied
understand
from
why Irv?
shame.
he was just
So he can lie from shame, but Helly don't lie from shame, because
No,
what did
I don't
Helly do?
think
no, because
Helly was
Helly not
lying
that kind
from
of
shame.
girl.
Because
I
Helly
think
don't be shame.
if Helly was lying from shame, she would have came up with a better lie than that Gardner could come over at night. But Helena is literally wealthy. Like she probably thinks that you can get a gardener to come through at night. Like she don't know that kind of
I
shit. She's
think.
been rich her whole life.
Can y'all hear me? I
Yeah.
think
Yes.
Yeah.
Helena is what I said. I think it's Helena because she don't be thinking on her feet, and she wanted to be, because when they showed in this episode that she was so impressed and in tune with the fact that she kissed Mark S, I'm like, nah, she want to go in there and have an exciting life, and it gave it away. The way that Irv said, wait, a gardener at night, that means that she didn't go through her lie enough. She didn't go through her lie enough, so she made up something that an Audi would think of. Oh, I just went home and yeah, my gardener. And it was like, bro, we was outside at night though. So you have a night gardener? And so that's was like, oh no. Helly wouldn't make up that lie. That's my thing. I still think Helly would lie out of shame, but she would not make up that lie. And she would also tell Mark S quietly because she loved her some Mark S.
Right. And I think she assumed that maybe they wouldn't catch on to that because they're Indies and they wouldn't experience outside life. But
Yeah. They have no
like,
reason to think, they have no proof that night gardeners don't exist.
right.
But Irv, no. So I want to be very clear. This looks way more nefarious and ridiculous than it is. This is water. I just have a lot of. I'm not like drinking on the job of my show. Maybe no. It's water. This is me sober. I have a lot of red Solo cups left over from our What We Watch Film Festival. Part 3 is coming this year. Y'all tap in. Um, David, have you been watching the show? Sherrod, have you been watching the show? Welcome to What We Watch. Don't be shy, guys. Come on up. We got about 5-10 minutes left. David, have you been watching
So
Severance?
I watched Severance, but I was staying largely quiet because I haven't seen this particular episode, the most recent
Okay.
one. I
Okay.
did see the first premiere episode of this season.
Good. 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 Yeah, they tried it. So let's drill in real quick on that scene, Teach, because I like that. So we don't get to see the time a lot in this show. Have y'all noticed that? Like we don't, like when the time is shown, that feels very intentional. And like Teach said, there were multiple beats where we're looking at the time of entry for Mark S, for Herb, for Dylan, and then for some reason it's not the same kind of time. And if you look, they didn't even show the clock. They like purposely just out of like left the clock just out of the frame for Helly's entrance into the severed floor, if you will. And so I clocked that. That was too much. The Miss Kabelvig story, I hope it doesn't fall flat. Like, where is she going? Is she gonna come back?
She was about to hit Mark with her car. I'm not bored by that at all. That's real cinema.
I hope it doesn't fall flat because she's leaving. She's about to hit her car because she's leaving. So
No,
I hope
she's
she
not
comes
leaving.
back.
I don't think she's leaving. I think that she obviously wants to be back on the severed floor for some reason. They offered her basically a fake job that they created for her, and she was like, "Fuck that shit." But I think she's. I don't think she's leaving. I think she's going to be in the show and a character, and she's going to try to make her way back to the severed floor. Because you remember, he told Mr. Milchick told them, "Hey, she'll never be back. She'll never be on that severed floor again." I think that they put that in there to let us know that she will be on the severed floor again. That's probably how we end our season with her making her way back to the severed floor.
That's what I'm thinking. Because I like her. Who is the villain in this? Because you
Well,
just
Helena looked like the villain to me. It's either Helena or Miss Kobelvig or both or Mr. Milchick or all of them.
Everybody's the villain.
I guess Lumen's the villain.
Trayvon. Who's the villain in this show so far?
I mean, I agree. I think they're all villains differently, but if you work for Lumen, you're a villain. Like, I just don't think you can
Okay.
work for the evil unless you're going against it. So I guess we'll see what Helly does again. But
So does that include the severed people?
no, they don't. That don't count.
Okay. So
Yeah,
because they work for Lumen too.
yeah. Well,
So
you know what I mean. If they are
so the
unsevered, working
unsevered
with the
Lumen
severed.
people
Yeah, yeah.
are evil. I don't trust anything Mr. Milchick says, and I'm very serious about that. Like I get upset. I'm telling you, I get really into this show. When Mr. Milchick speaks, I'm like the exact opposite of what he's saying is true. Sometimes they're not even an opposite, but if he say 5 p.m., it's definitely 5 a.m. If he say 5 months, it's definitely not 5 months. Whatever the opposite of 5 months is. Like I know it's not. That means it was like 5 hours or 5 days. Like he just lies way too much. And it's so cool because if we like really apply it to real life, which is what I love doing here at What We Watch, because it shows so much of our characters and our experiences and how we perceive and understand and relate to characters. It reminds me so much of like corporate America and how there is a Mr. Milchick always. Like, and there is a board always. You can't name the people on the board for your company because they don't like you don't even know like where they are, who they're with, like how are they making so many decisions with your CEO? Like you don't even know. And so Mr. Milchick is that guy that's like kind of in on the secrets, but also not. He's still also a puppet. And he's like the hiring manager for Lumen all around for the severed floor. And it's like, what are my benefits really? And how am I really going to like enjoy my job here? Because I think it was very harrowing for us to follow Mr. Milchick going to everyone's house. That's why I was completely in on this episode. Like, Mr. Milchick is just as bad as we thought, if not worse. Sherrod, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about Mr. Milchick? For me, Mr. Milchick is the villain. I'm willing to hear Miss Kobelvig out. I'm willing to hear Helly out because she seemed just pressed for a little bit of intimacy because she seems insufferable in real life. So, but I can't with Mr. Milchick. What do you think?
Well, first, I just want to say thanks for having me, but I do have to admit that I have not watched this show yet. I've been meaning to, uh, and
Oh
so for someone
no!
who hasn't watched the show,
Uh-huh.
could y'all tell me like what's a good reason to watch it?
Teach, kick us off. What's a good reason to watch this show too?
I would say one, it's the best show on TV right now. But two, it's like a high level concept, but it like really nails the small stuff. It really nails the comedic bits. It really nails the kind of intimacy between the characters. And it is a high brain, high level concept, what the fuck is going on kind of show. And it's just infinitely entertaining. I would recommend it to literally anyone. I find it to be amazing.
Trevon, what do you think?
I would say it's probably the easiest digestible sci-fi show because I
Yeah.
don't really watch a lot of weird sci-fi stuff because I feel like once it gets midway through like season one, I'm kind of confused and I just turn it off. But I feel with this one, because it is so recognizable, like office work, it's
Yes.
easy to like follow along with.
It is a workplace sci-fi comedy, right? Like it's really intense. Helen, what do you think?
All of that, what they said, but also it's visually interesting. Like I found, like sometimes you watch TV and you're like doing something else. Like I want to look at this show. Like it's like you just have to look at it. Like you don't want to look away because you might miss a thing, and there's just like always something going on the
Yeah.
screen, and you want to see it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
for
Yes.
sure. And if we don't get back to this, Mark S's sister is onto everybody, and she's gonna figure it all out.
She's clocked it, but she's been clocked it
He
since the
has
beginning.
clocked everything. This whole episode, you can just see her lurking in the background, like, nah, she on to everything, bro. You need to listen to her, Mark, not yell at her.
And because she's just like a pregnant wife and her husband is the author, everybody's like, let's get the pregnant or the lady that just had a baby, let's calm her down because she's a little crazy.
Right?
And
Because how many times? How
it's
many she's like
such
she said she's alive?
it's such a good juxtaposition of like the author that literally revealed everything to the NE Mark is like, all right, you cool, yeah, keep your job, my boy. And the sister is like, are you, does that make sense? Like, does any of this make sense? You don't want to challenge none of this? Like, that's crazy. JK, why do you think someone should watch the show? Oh, David, I'm sorry, go ahead, and then JK. David, go ahead.
Yeah, mine kind of connects to the villain aspect, that's a
Yes.
question that you were asking. I would say for me, any reason to watch a show besides everything that everyone says, which is also very correct. I feel like all the greatest shows that I've loved, including two of my favorites from that I guess kind of ended this year or last year. Damn, it's been that went fast. But Shogun and Interview with the Vampire and this show are all shows that I think feature all of those things, visuals, all of these, intimate relationships and great depictions of those relationships. But also for me, everything is like, what do you have to say? And it's so rare on TV because film can actually separate itself a little bit from its capitalistic kind of endeavors and the desires of it. But it's much harder because TV is so directly connected, but even through its ads and everything like that, it has to be. And so it's
Mm,
very rare that you get a lot of times from TV the kind of daring and the kind of conversational pieces that I think you can get from film on almost a regular basis. So the point being that this is one of those shows, though. I think it is as far as in my lifetime, I've never seen a better commentary on work itself. So
yeah.
that's one. And as such, to me, the villain, at least in a more wider sense, is work. I really think this show is, while at the same time, it's definitely nuanced about it and knows that work can be also be a place where you find your purpose and things like that. I still think ultimately the way in which work has been devised, which kind of stands for that Kier way of thinking, is
Yes.
the enemy of everyone, of which Mark S would be the villain, as you so poignantly pointed out, is the villain we can see because middle management is always the villain we can see. And that's ultimately what
Hello.
sorry, not Mark, Milchick
Milkshake. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is and everything stuff. He's middle management, and that is the people that we get to see. But they're ultimately espousers of the ideology, and they always find those people that are very dead. That's the only people that are gonna move up into middle and upper management are people like him. And what's her name again? You said it earlier. The
Really?
Patricia
Oh,
Patricia
Patricia
Arquette.
Arquette's character, Miss Cabell Vig. Miss Selvig of
Yes,
Miss Cabell, yeah.
Exactly. Those two people are always going to move because they are behaviorally and psychologically set up and kind of predisposed
Yeah,
by the way they've been raised or whatever to be people that are very endeared and take on the ideology of the workplace. So yeah, that's my
agreed.
thoughts.
Yeah. I love what you said, and Sherrod, we're still kind of answering your question. I mean, entire all of what we watch is talking about the films and TV shows we love and why. So you'll continue to hear these recommendations. But I love what you said. Work is a lot of times how people find their purpose. And whether it's the chicken or the egg, I mean, you kind of don't have a choice. You kind of got to work to pay your bills, or someone else will work to pay y'all's bills. So, because of the capitalistic society that we do live in. But I think it's very profound that you say sometimes people find purpose in their work, or find their purpose in their work and stuff like that, because that's what the innies are. I don't think the innies are, like, to me, I've called them the children of, I've called them these, like, wondrous, exciting, like, creatures. But if I were to, like, objectify them, right, they are the purpose of your work. They're like the full embodiment of what you find meaningful in your work. And that's what they're doing. They're looking for meaning in the work because they don't know anything else. And so it's really kind of brilliant, because that's what the show is about. It's like, what happens, like, who are you outside of work? Or you could rephrase that question to say, who are you inside of work, right? If you separate yourself from it. And that's really, really interesting. I think the villain kind of conversation, the specific reason why I would tell anyone to watch it is definitely, number one, I love villains. Batman is not good because of Batman. We want to be very clear. I think we all know this by now. I think our demographic has gotten it. Batman is not great because of Batman. Batman is great because of its villains in the universe, I should say. Batman, who's been played by many characters in films, they're fantastic as Batman. But Batman himself is actually kind of the villain. He's actually kind of an issue. But Severance helps us ask questions. Sherrod, when you watch the pilot, you're going to have at least 80 questions. I rewatched it the other day, and it is the coolest thing I've ever done, actually, with regards to a TV show, is going back to watch the pilot of a show like this. I recommend that to everyone in this room. You're going to have 70 questions. You're going to be like, what the fuck am I watching? And it keeps you going. It answers some questions, and then it brings up so much more. And it's like, the overarching question is, who am I? What am I doing here? Why do I have a job? But and if you've ever asked any of those questions, it matters a lot. JK, why do you think someone would watch it? Should watch it?
Um, well, there's already been some really good reasons already mentioned by everybody else. But my reason for why I would say to watch it is that I really, from a nerdy sense, I really like the mise en scène of the show, and how it kind of reminds me of Wes Anderson, but an upside down Wes Anderson, because he kind of has that same a similar color scheme to his films. And it
Mm,
also, for some reason, it also made me think about Apple and how they design their products and how they design their stores, and how it kind of has like a,
there's a psychology behind that, yeah.
yeah, the psychology behind that, and like the modern but vintage look to
Yes,
everything. So that was just by itself was just very entertaining. And then also the plot is insane. But
it's
two
insane.
other things I wanted to touch on as well. So Miltrick, um, I think he's really hot, so it's kind of hard for me to really hate
Oh
him.
gosh.
But but but
Oh,
hold on. I got a point. Hold on. But
uh,
but I think like everybody says, he's middle management, and you tend to hate him because he represents, the company, and he's the one that would be firing you if you did something wrong. But I feel like we're gonna see a episode where we kind of dig into why he does what he does and how he became who he is, and that's what I'm waiting on before I fully
yes.
hate him.
No,
I
I'm
know
not
it's
waiting on
coming.
that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna continue to hate him, but I do want to know. Um,
I mean, I saw that bike, that motorcycle that he been riding. I don't know.
I
I'm
know that
sorry. I
had you
can't.
going.
That had me going. I'm
I know
sorry. He
that
can
had you
fire
going.
me any
I'm
day.
off
I'm
of it.
sorry.
I can't. I can't. Here's the thing for me with Mr. Milchick. Middle management is an interesting word. We're gonna run with that. There's something, is it precarious? There's something particularly precarious about a person that has the power to inform just a little bit or help motherfuckers out just a little bit and just still won't. Like, and it's so clear he's very much, I love my job. And maybe I just, as someone in upper management, I really struggle with people like that, and I'm in upper management. um, you know, and I just, you don't have to be this way. And I think those are the most insidious people, and that's why I hate him, because like think about it, the shit with Dylan and giving Dylan the opportunity to see his family, that all a lie, all a lie. But like giving Dylan the opportunity to see his family, you could have just left it at that. You know, I don't like fuck with Mr. Milchick, because then he had to follow it up with, you can't tell your other friends. Oh, so why can't I tell my other friends, bro? If they don't have families, then just tell them, or like, you run the interference. You're making me carry a thing that's supposed to be joyful, and now I got to keep it from my friends. Another source of enjoyment for me in this world, in this very tiny world. I don't
Yeah.
like it. I don't fuck with it. I don't do that. Just like give me the access, and be like, hey, but Mr. Milchick has to lie and do that and concoct all these and manufacture all this kind of, what will I say, like excitement towards a thing, and keep the innies kind of reaching for something that's not there, so that
Hmm.
Living can continue to operate, so that he can get promoted. Go ahead, David. I saw your hand go right on up.
Yes, just simply because I wanted to add that the tiny little bit that part that you're talking about of him, what he told Dylan, it instantly reminded me of, I've been in a lot of jobs where they will increase your pay or give you some sort of promotion, and then instantly tell you that same thing, like, do not share this with your coworkers. And I never obey it. I'm always going to tell, but it's just such a weird thing that a corporate really does do.
Yeah, corporate thrives on secrecy and, a hierarchy, and we all are victims to some extent, and we're all, complicit to an extent. Sherrod, go ahead. I see your hand up.
I just want to say thanks for the recommendations. After the first one, I was like, okay, I'm in. And
Okay,
then,
good.
and then after the rest, I'm like, I'm definitely watching it tonight.
Yes,
And
and please
as
let us
son,
know and hashtag what we watch, so we can
will
find
do.
your
And as
thoughts.
someone who I worked for the cult of Apple, that I think it was J.K. who said who kind of drew their comparisons with Apple and the film
Hmm.
style. So that's definitely
Hmm.
something I'm gonna be looking out for.
I'm excited for you. I really am. I witnessed one person watch the pilot in front of me, and like my eyes were like shining bright the whole time, and I was giddy, and they were like, what is happening? And I'm like, just watch, just watch. Trevon, I want you to wrap us up. Tell me what you're thinking is going to happen in the third episode, and what you are not about to be gaslit about. Because all this show does is gaslight you. All this show does is make you think you know what's going on, and it tries to flip it on its head. But like, stick to your guns, guys. Trust your consciousness. We are not severed. We know what's going on. But like I said, it's still Helly R, and the R stands for rebellious. Okay, don't play with my girl. Mr. Milchick lies about everything. Literally, the next episode you watch, just remember that Mr. Milchick is lying. Trevon, what do you think? Oh, is he listening now? He's not speaking. Edwin, you've been kind of quiet. Tell me what you're thinking for the next episode to wrap us up.
I've been joining the conversations going on tonight, so yeah. So for the next episode, like, I still stick around for like the preview after the ending, just to
Okay.
see like what they were the cast are saying about their characters and what's going on for us to understand. So they definitely play in the preview some goats. So it's like, if you paid attention from last season, and especially in the new opening credits that we saw, it's like we're going to be dealing with goats, babies, and a lot of like strange things up ahead. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like we're definitely going to learn a little bit more on like
About the
what
other wars and the goats.
yeah, is like we can assume or theorize that it's basically going to be cloning, that is like trying to sever like people like from their innies and
Okay.
outies, as like they're trying to test these animals, and I'm pretty sure they're
Okay.
it got to the human trial, especially with everybody in the severed floor. So it's going to be interesting. Is like just what are the goats' reasoning for in Lumen? So
Uh-huh.
it's definitely strange. It's like this is the part of like the science fictiony stuff that
Yeah.
gets like audience a little chafed, but it's like hopefully like the writers
What is
try to make us understand.
it that book called Animal Farm? With all the animals and the sci-fi? Is it Animal
Yeah, that's him.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. Yes.
Okay, okay. I don't know why everything you just said reminded me so much of Animal Farm and like what it represented. But yeah, I was trying to figure out what the baby goats meant. I was like goat's milk, cloning, lab testing, maybe just a recreational center. Me and Trevon said last time, like, what would you need to be a happy severed person and a happy Lumen employee? Trevon was like, I'm gonna need some fresh air. I was like, I'm gonna need to see some dogs every now and then, some wildlife. You know, give me some birds with no influenza. Give me something. You know, give me something. Trevon, what do you think? What do you think is gonna happen next episode?
I don't know what's gonna happen, but what I want to happen is to figure out what Bert saw when like the overtime contingency stopped, because we saw Bert pull up when old boy was on the phone.
In the phone booth. Yeah, what was
Yeah,
that about? We
and
didn't
I was
really.
like, so that and like we've seen what happened to everybody else. We've seen, well, not really Dylan, but I guess we can assume he just got caught. But we've seen Helly and we've seen Mark, but we haven't seen what happened after knocking
Heard.
on the door. So I'd be very mad if I don't get that in episode 3. 'Cause I don't want to wait too long.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Helen, I saw your hand go up briefly.
I don't even remember, but I want I think the whole goat thing and the like cloning and separating people from their severed person has everything to do with Gemma. Where is my good sis? Okay. Because she
Okay,
died in real
got you.
life, clearly, right? But she's down here. So where is she now? And what I don't want us to ever happen, because we hate Milchick, I'm with you on that. I don't want them to give us this sob story for him, and I
It's not
don't
gonna work.
want it's not gonna work. One, but two, I could see it going to a place where it's like, well, he's being bamboozled by the big guys too, because he's a middleman. But like,
Don't
nah,
care.
dog,
Don't care.
I don't care. That's basically the
Thank
bottom
you,
line. Like, I
Helen.
don't care. I hope they
Bro,
don't do it though. I hope
don't
they go in a
try
whole other
anything, bro.
direction, and he is actually the villain that he is being.
It's funny you bring up Gemma. Thank you, because how could we possibly continue this conversation without talking about Gemma real quick? Gemma is dead. When I say is, maybe was, kind of. However, did y'all realize that when Adam was trying to fight with his little sister in the diner, he said, "You think I don't recognize a burnt up body?" So
Hmm.
she was burnt up. Like the number one thing in film is like burnt up bodies are hard to identify. So like how burnt up was she? And so was she burnt up and then she was brought back to life? So it was just, I think that was very intentional dialogue to say, oh, I couldn't identify my wife right after it was just like burned up from a car accident. And I'm even willing to go as far to say that Lumen is not trustworthy, and Lumen was the reason she got into the car accident. What do you think, Edwin?
Yeah, it's definitely the big and the question is certainly like just how are they going to connect all this? Because it's like because even like when Mark was telling his sister, is like you don't think I would recognize a burnt body, or what if like when he's like trying to Devin's trying to give him sympathy, but also is like you don't understand like what it's like at the diner, and then he's like just like having to deal like my wife is completely burnt and I have to go identify it, and just
Yeah,
how difficult it is, and it just he was like that's the one thing about how are they going to do all of this is like
right.
how is Lumen involved in Mark's life is like how involved like why would they pick Gemma of all people is like it's
Yeah.
certainly like or is like why would they
You
go so
peel
far
back
to
one layer and then you're like, wait, oh,
yeah it's like and
wait,
also they
wait.
they let we didn't get to this but like Mark like they gave everything to Mark, they fired everybody. It is like look we're 68% away from our plan, just give him what he wants.
Right.
Like it's like there's certainly like something big going on. We're probably gonna get enough, but it's like season one is like we'll just give you a little bit.
I also want people to know that since Lumen is a company, there's not just one mission. There's one mission statement, but there's multiple goals and multiple missions. And so while we already kind of know Lumen's mission statement, it's probably a few things. You know, Gemma's probably just one cog in the machine. Like
Hmm.
it's probably layered. Lumen is probably like a Procter and Gamble where they've got a lot of products, a lot of things, a lot of ways to help, a lot of verticals. One of them is we can bring your people back to life through our consciousness. The other one is we can sever you from any depressive episode. The other one is like your innies, your macro data refiners. They're just like trying to make you happier. So they're doing stuff to try to like make you happier because if we can make the innies happy, you carry that into the switch of the severed thing and you make it you're happier at in your outie form because you don't work and you're reaping all the benefits, right? Like ideally, if you just, know that you're happy because you don't know anything going on at work and you still getting all the benefits, getting paid, spending the money, ideally you would probably be a little happier because you're technically not working. But if your innie is in there not happy, exhausted, like that we can say we feel exhausted for a reason coming back from work. Imagine not having that feeling. You don't have that feeling of exhaustion, or imagine not, or imagine having the feeling and not knowing where it came from. Like both of these things are things that Severance is like really kind of exploring, which is really cool because you are not a different body, and your body is affected by your emotions, by your stressors. And so it's like if I don't know what I did at work, but I can probably still feel that I had a good day at work or feel that I had a terrible day. And how does that affect? So that's another thing I want everyone to remember. And this has been Severance and a little bit of Oscar's Best Picture noms chat for What We Watch. Happy What We Watch Wednesday. See you next week. Tap in and subscribe on YouTube. And please share if you loved the episodes. Bye.